coaches, cheerleaders, and warp spawn. We're at the Reno airport, headed to SLC. Got a stopover in Vegas on the way there, but we're on the way to Rocky Mountain Rampage. Rocky Mountain Rampage is a long-running tournament, this year of 2023 being the 12th occurrence. My journey there began with me having to catch a flight from Reno to Vegas, then Vegas to Salt Lake City in Utah. It was cheaper to take 4 separate flights than 2 flights to Salt Lake and back because American air travel is dumb. My Vegas flight got delayed 6 hours, so I was stuck in the airport for a while. I hadn't eaten that day, so I started with a small chicken sandwich with some kind of garlic sauce, and it was good. I would go on to have airport McDonald's throughout my time waiting. I'm glad it wasn't a flight that affected something time-sensitive, as my next flight wasn't till the morning anyway. As I always do in Vegas, and as I might come to regret this time, I had to eat at Boston Street Pizza. They have the best pizza and wings I've ever had from one place. I also got some fried mushrooms, and their house-made ranch is amazing. After a quick sleep at the hostel, I headed to the airport for my Salt Lake flight. We're in Vegas still. It's the morning after my layover. Yesterday my flight ended up getting delayed about 6 hours, which kind of sucked. But overall, I didn't really have much planned for the time anyway. But yeah, we're out here. I always like Vegas in the morning. It's really peaceful. Hopefully everything goes alright, getting on my connecting flight at least. And supposedly one of the runways got damaged, and they only have like 4 of them, so like a fourth of the flights were getting super delayed or canceled or something like that. So hopefully that doesn't affect me today. We'll see though. Well, we made it to SLC with no delays this time. One step closer to Death Bowl tonight. I've got to say this airport's a whole lot smaller than I expected. It is the most average looking airport I've ever seen, but at least it's easy to navigate. First up was Death Bowl. This is a 4-player variant of Blood Bowl, played on 2 overlapping pitches in a plus shape. Teams set up on the line where the 2 other sides meet, like in some of the pictures. It gets crazy very quickly, as you can imagine. Here are some choice bits from the rules briefing at the beginning of the event.
When you start the game, you're going to roll a D8, okay, or D4, whatever you have, okay? That's to see who sets up. So you'll start out, whoever gets the highest roll, they choose, and they can choose where they set up, and they can choose where they sit, okay? You're going to all set up based on how you roll, okay? So next highest will set up next. Once you're all set up, then you will roll another D8 to see who goes first. When you score, the ball will drop in the center again. At that point, if you have reserves or knockouts, you can roll to have those come in, or you can bring in your reserves. Okay, so remember that, and that's when anyone scores. Okay, not just when you score. However, for secret weapons, and there are several, you are only sent off if you score.
Secret
okay?
weapons.
So if you score, just make sure that you roll. You can roll to argue the call, or if you have a bribe, whatever else. Rerolls. If you took a reroll, you only get it once.
Crazy.
Okay, because there's no drives. Okay, so if you took a reroll. All right. If you get stuck and there's nothing else to do, and you have the ball, you can throw it into the cave. Bigfoot will happily take the ball and he'll throw it to the middle. Okay, so that's 2 points. And by the way, as you probably saw, everything you do in this game counts for points. Picking up the ball counts for points. Passing, handing off. Even a stun, knockouts, they all count for points.
What about bombs?
So bombs will count just like if you get casualties, everything else. All
No bombs.
secret weapons, fouling, all of that counts.
I saw on my first block and hate it.
Collusion is encouraged,
I thought it was more important to stay standing.
That's the best part of this game.
but don't gang up on people maliciously. It's a game, okay? So be sportsmanlike. But collusion is encouraged when you're asking for assists.
I can be bought.
It is fun.
So have fun while you beat people.
So treat everyone with malice.
Treat everyone with
You're
that.
not doing crazy Chaos Cup rules where you get a blitz per player
Yes,
per turn, right?
I am
are?
adopting that. Yep,
Whoa.
you get a blitz per turn.
Do I get
So
two
you can
bombs?
blitz
So I
each
get-
of your opponents on your turn if you want.
Do I get
Most important of all, from the people who were staying at Brian's, the ranking determined their choice of sleeping space. The stakes were high, clearly. For Death Bowl, I took a corn roster with Scylla, a corn, 3 corn gores with 2 guards, and 3 linemen with 2 blocks, and a reroll for good measure. I didn't realize at the time of roster creation that secret weapons counted towards casualty points, but I'm glad I got the chance to use some star models I never have before. Round 1 was versus Elven Union, Amazons, and Black Orcs. I was positioned next to the squishier teams, and I figured I'd press that advantage, but I never really got the chance, and I didn't roll pals that game. Sila did manage to get several both downs though, so that was an A for effort on his part.
First rush. Second rush.
Killed myself.
Yeah, first.
Woo! All right.
Yeah, Farmer went out of
We got a touchdown.
Game 2 was against Orcs, Undead, and Amazons. I definitely felt the difference of consistency from the other Bashy teams, and the Amazon player had a giant target on his head, but still managed to move the ball around a bit. Game 3 I was against Black Orcs, Undead, and Elven Union. This game went a bit better in some regards, but several of my turns were ended with Sila getting both downs. I only brought 1 set of block dice with me for the entire weekend, so the pressure was on for sure for the next day. Hopefully they would perform a little better. Impressively, Kyle, the Black Orc player, jumped from the bottom table to getting runner-up just in this game. His armor dice were going crazy, and it was both awesome and horrifying at the same time. He was running Bomber and some fairly Black Orc shenanigans. I feel like Black Orcs are a lot better in side games like Death Bowl, and almost prefer them to Biggins and Dungeon Bowl, but that's another topic for another day.
Okay, we have first place and a runner-up. This year our runner-up with 110 points was Kyle. Woo! Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. And first place with 122 points, Terrell. Woo! You can. Congrats. Thanks, sir. Absolutely. Okay, and more importantly, for those staying here, here's the rankings.
Oh!
So, congrats on the Death Bowl win. Talk about stuff.
So last year I brought the Death Roller Dwarves and get Sneaky Get on the Death Roller as a double scale.
Gross.
And they didn't be well enough last year that I just decided to re-roll the same roster again. Minor changes, and I did a Sure Hands Blitzer last year, and he was reasonably successful, but he still had to do a lot of go-for-its. So with a small adjustment, did a runner with block instead. A little bit more vulnerable, but he had a little bit more speed, was able to get touchdowns a little bit more often. Still got a decent amount.
Do you feel like the vulnerability mattered?
Not extremely, because when I was able to defend him, it was able to put a nice screen on the side, especially for this zones. How Death Bowl has like that corner edge, you can kind of protect him in that zone pocket until he can make a break for the end zone. Not too bad. Mighty Blow on a Troll Slayer because
Why not?
why not? And
Well, frenzy with the walls.
yeah, and Mighty Blow. It's nice to target Snotlings a couple of times, and 6 dice blocks work out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Any shout-outs? Whoever you don't name is going to be mad at you, so no stress.
Yeah, I feel bad for Roy
Okay.
because he brought Skaven to this, and that was not to play with 3 blitzes. That's just a lot. The guys I came up with from Vertitello both bought some work teams with Nabla and Bomber, and that was a lot of points. I know that they were throwing down a lot of points today, so
Yep.
those were giving me worries as we were getting towards the end of it. I knew I had to really stretch my legs and get a lot of points, otherwise I wasn't going to get this again. Yeah, that's it.
Well, congrats.
Thank you.
We're coming at you live from Brian 2's basement. It's the morning of Rocky Mountain Rampage. I'm getting ready to go. We'll see if I'm awake by the time I get there. The big day had arrived. I was stoked and ready to record some footage. I honestly couldn't have guessed how the day was going to go. The ever-stylish Zoot Suit Jeff and I headed into the event a bit early, but not before stopping for breakfast with some of the other Death Bowl survivors. We ate at a local place called Neater's that is known for their French toast. My body was still in recovery from eating airport McDonald's, followed by wings and fried mushrooms, then those leftovers the next day. So I went with a salad, which turned out to be amazing. The Asiago cheese bread in particular was perfectly toasted and the cheese was baked in, but didn't change the bread texture at all. I don't know what sorcery they used for that, but it was perfect. Rocky Mountain Rampage 2023 was the Swiss Resurrection Exhibition format, meaning your roster would reset every round and you would be paired based on current ranking. Weather was always perfect conditions, which is something I always like to see. Team tiers were divided into 3, like is fairly common, but some of the teams were switched around from what you might expect. Nothing too drastic though. Taking a star would raise your team a tier and reduce your build total. Skills were purchased with gold and had a limit of 2 upgrades per piece, primaries being 20k, secondaries being 40k, and stat upgrades being costed to their relative TV increase. Wins were 60 points, ties were 30, and losses were 10. Bonus points were awarded based on outscoring or outcashing the opponent. There were in-game prizes each round as well for things like failing a rush or stuff like that. This event also had its own kickoff table with some crazy results, including a couple where Bigfoot himself would come onto the pitch to interfere. Playing Tomb Kings, I was particularly terrified of number 8, which gave a -1 to pickups or catches. The full table can be found in the link in the description. It's worth looking at just for fun if nothing else. I loved the participation swag. We got some purple event dice, and being a first timer I had the choice between a Bigfoot model or a dice cup. The dice cups were super well made. Coaches showed up from all over.
We have people from all over, so it's nice to have them here. These are the states that are representing. We've got Arizona. Woo! We've got California. Yeah! We've got Colorado. Yeah! We've got Idaho. Yeah! We've got Michigan. Yeah.
It's about as much enthusiasm as
Utah!
He forgot to mention Nevada, but I think I can forgive him just this once. I went with the Tomb Kings anti-agility and general bash build. I feel like my choices were fairly straightforward, but I wanted to make sure I could address blodgers and stunnies. I had encountered a disproportionate number of dodge-heavy matchups in my past events, so I figured I'd come prepared just in case. My roster consisted of 2 rerolls plus a leader. I had 2 blitzers, I bumped both their armor values up to 10+, and gave them both tackle. I had a thrower with leader. I had 1 block skeleton lineman, 2 wrestle skeleton linemen, and then a vanilla, and an extra 1 for bench. I had 4 Tomb Guardians, as you should, all of them with guard, and one of them with block, as kind of a beefy blitzer if I needed. I considered adding some Mighty Blow or something to that effect. I don't really have sneaky get access, but I do have dirty player access. But really I just wanted to cover my core skills, and that's what I focused on. Round 1, I was up against Kyle, who had gotten runner-up the night before in Death Bowl. He was playing a Nurgle roster with no rerolls. A brave man. He had a Rot Spawn with Guard and Stand Firm. His bloaters in particular I liked his spread and skills on. But one of them had Block and Guard, another had Block and Mighty Blow, one had Stand Firm and Guard, and there was another Block and Mighty Blow for good measure. There were some Pestigores that were enhanced, one with Wrestle and Tackle, another one with Block, and plus Agility, which came in really handy. The team definitely needs it. There were 3 Wrestle Rotters, and 1 Vanilla Rotter. For those who might be unfamiliar with the term, Vanilla means skillless or like default. In this game, my proudest moment was moving a skeleton up next to the thrower prior to trying to pick up the ball. We had rolled the kickoff results that meant I had to pick up the ball on a 5+, and it was brutal. I can't remember if it took me 2 or 3 turns to actually get a hold of it. My thrower failed to pick up the ball, even with sure hands, and it bounced onto the skeleton, who rolled a 6, and I was really glad I had placed him nearby. I felt like a true strategist at that moment. As any great tar pit matchup should, this match ended in a draw, with both of us managing to score once. Here's a clip of a desperation dodge that would have freed up a bloater to block my ball carrier in.
4+. Oh, he goes down. He goes down.
My second round opponent was Rory. He was also there the night before for Death Bowl, and we're going to get back to him a little later. I do not have a printed roster for him, but he was playing Chaos Renegades. He chose to go with the Ogre, Minotaur, and the Rat Ogre, which I respect entirely. He had block and guard across his big guys. Going skill heavy in this instance, with spending gold on skills, allows you to do a lot of really fun, really optimized things like that. He had a Dark Elf with block and dodge, and arguably the star of the show was the Goblin with Sneaky Git and Dirty Player. I also liked his Skaven. I believe he had Wrestle, and that's pretty much the rundown with some linemen to fill it out. He managed to remove 2 of my Tomb Guardians in the first few turns, and it was kind of rough. I was spacing them out with 1 square each, just because that's typically really safe since I had so much guard anyway. And I was thinking they'd be fine, but his big guy dice to set it otherwise. At one point we rolled a kickoff result that gave his Minotaur both really stupid and Unchanneled Fury, which was hilarious, at least from my side of the table. I got a lot of revenge in the second half, but I was unable to get the ball deep into his half, despite my best efforts, so I ended up losing this one. There was some very solid back and forth, and his Sneaky Git Dirty Player Goblin really did a lot of work. In between round 2 and 3, they announced present standings, and I overheard that I was in second for most casualties, only trailing by 2. I felt a lot more confident with Tomb Kings playing raw fundamentals than I thought. With 1 loss, I knew it was very unlikely to get into a top spot, and I was most likely not going to score enough bonus points to be harsh tiebreakers because there were a lot of good players at this event. Consequently, I decided to go all out on casualties from this point forward, despite my roster not having any Mighty Blow, Sneaky Git, or Dirty Player. I was kinda nervous about the decision, but developed some resolve. We had lunch at Chubby's. I ate my food too quickly, but I had some fried halibut and hush puppies. The place had a sort of country vibe to it, which is a genre of food I'll never be mad about. Had kind of a hole-in-the-wall vibe too, a little bit. It reminds me of the parts of Texas that I didn't mind so much. I also got some chocolate mousse and a decent hot sauce to take home as well. Back to the event. Round 3, I played against Townie, who was also present at Death Bowl. He was playing humans it was a good mix of skills, I would say. We were looking at 2 rerolls plus a leader. His catchers, he left vanilla, except that he gave them each strength 3. And this ended up mattering a lot over the course of the game. On one of his blitzers, he took Dauntless, another Mighty Blow, and 2 of them with guard. 2 of his linemen had Wrestle, 1 had Fend, and 1 had Strip Ball. I can totally respect not going with an Ogre, and I understand the frustration that can come with big guys having run trolls the past 2 events. He caught on to what I was doing, probably partially the way through, and I was glad to pound as many of his players in the face as I could. Our game went super quickly. He was very decisive and could break the board down to know his optimal agility moves in a few seconds. I was really impressed with that. The spread of skills he had proved very useful, and he still managed to move the ball around even when he was down to, I believe it was like 5 players or 6 players. I did well in terms of casualty to KO ratio this game, which really helped me out. He won by a large margin, but I had also won by a larger margin in my own way. This was the second no reroll roster that I would face for the day. He had 3 regular linemen. The only reroll he had was leader on one of his corn gores, and he had 4 bloodseekers with block. This is a pretty straightforward list. I can appreciate it, and he went at it like any corn player should. My round 4 opponent was Chase, playing corn. This was his first tournament. He was a fairly new player and so excited just to be playing Blood Bowl. It was a very fun game, and I was 1 player away from tabling him, but he kept fighting till the very last. He was very enthusiastic the entire time. And it was fun just to see somebody who was excited just to execute the mechanics of the game. It really brought me back to my roots and why I picked this game back up in the first place. Unfortunately, a lot of my removals were KOs, but I still managed to snag some more casualties to further my quest. After this came the award ceremony.
On to awards. So, it was amazing. We had 2 points separated 1 through 3. 2 points!
Nice.
So, pretty amazing. But let's start here. Best painted goes to Drew. Oh, here we go. All right, come over here. She's gonna get a picture.
The best painted team looked amazing. I only got a quick little video of it, not even knowing that it was gonna get best painted, but honestly, like, I thought it had a good shot just looking at it.
Those pictures are better without
Nice. Fantastic. Yeah, by the way, Drew paints a lot of my teams. He's awesome. So best defense goes to Mike. 2 touchdowns. All right. Next one, dirty player. So, with 28 fouls for the day, Rory.
That's the biggest cheater. I can't take it to my girlfriend.
I didn't script this part, but I said we'd come back to talking about Rory. Like I said, that goblin on his Chaos roster was just going crazy the entire day. Dirty Player was also a very appropriate award. We had tied for casualties, but since he won Dirty Player, by default they split up the awards. Most of my casualties came from blocks, whereas I don't know what percentage it was, but a huge percentage of them came from his goblin just alone. Now, if you look at this one little clip, this was from when Brian was explaining the rules to Death Bowl, kind of briefing us. He was the only Skaven player there, and one of the few agility team players. Now notice what he says here.
I think you should mention that the faster you play, the more points you can get.
Very clever, good sir. You certainly deserve the title of Dirty Player, and I have nothing but respect. Our game was super fun.
Does that come with a bar of soap?
Should, right? Should. Okay, speaking of being dirty, most brutal. Most casualties goes to Steve with 19.
I was very happy to get a trophy. I was also happy that I intentionally made a plan and it paid off.
And best offense with 10, Craig.
What team? Nice. Wow. That means we got a plan. I also very nice.
Okay, so before we move on to the other awards, we have lots of coaches that did well and some that, were closer to the bottom. But one coach stands out, and Freddie,
guess what you get? You get a new team to play.
Awesome.
So you get this dwarf team painted by Sean. So let's put all these in here. You get a dwarf team.
What that dwarf team was there. That was super awesome.
Yes.
You're make him play dwarves.
My dad just got a dwarf team too.
So thanks, Sean Callie, for donating the team.
Yes.
That's yours, Callie. Hold on. Let's move to the other side. Nice, nice. Okay. Stunty Champ with halflings, Big Mike.
Yeah. Please.
All right. Okay, now for the top three. Again, 2 points separated third through first. With third place, Braden. You get some cool little dice. There you go. All right. Well done. In second place, by 1 point, Jeff. Nice.
Every bonus point counts.
Jeff brought his Amazons. It was the same Amazons from the night before from Death Bowl, and I believe he said that he made the choice just so he had to carry one team. He had one reroll stock, 2 blockers with block and guard, 2 blitzers, one with block, one with frenzy, another with wrestle and tackle. He had 3 line women with wrestle, 1 with kick, 3 vanilla line women. It's important to have bench on this team since the armor's a little bit low. And a thrower with block and leader. Jeff is a very solid player, and it's not the first time we've heard his name on the channel either. He tends to place at events anytime he shows up. So, congrats on the big 2. What were you running today?
I was running Amazon's, the new Amazon rosters. Second place by 1 point.
Yep. Yeah, it was really, really close.
I was surprised.
What they were talking about. Were you
I'm
happy?
very, the last couple of games, very.
I caught a little bit of that. Yeah.
Bit, so.
But were you happy with your roster? Would you change anything?
Pretty happy. I did another tourney where I used Mighty Zug because I can do stuff that the regular Amazons can, but here we had unlimited skills, so the blockers on the Amazons now are just really good, especially when you put block and guard on them.
Oh yeah.
Just like the positioning. It's really.
How'd defensive do for you?
It was. I think it gave some people some fits. It's not always. Fortunately, you only have 2 of them.
Yeah.
If you put them in the right places, it gives other coaches fits.
As an auto-include skill, it's definitely really good.
Yeah.
And top table champion with the little NAF trophy.
By 1 point.
Rich. Maybe. This guy taught me Blood Bowl.
Rich is an amazing old school player. I know we've said Brian 2's name a lot on this channel, and I've heard anywhere from one of the top players in the US to the top player in the US. I know he's scary to face regardless, but Rich is the one who taught him Blood Bowl in the first place. He took an orc roster, only 1 base reroll, but he had leader on the thrower. There was a biggin with wrestle, which all of these choices are just super interesting. Obviously, he had to fight really hard to get first, and he also plays orcs in 40k, so gotta love a fellow greenskin coach. He also had a lineman with sure feet, a blitzer with dodge and sure hands added. He had a vanilla goblin, another blocker with block and guard, a blitzer that was vanilla, a blitzer with block and tackle, a troll with guard, another vanilla blitzer, a wrestle blocker, the aforementioned thrower with leader, and another goblin. I am a big fan of the multi-goblin builds. Trolls I will always have mixed feelings about, but I believe the guard build is the best way to go. That way you don't necessarily have to activate it for it to be useful. And it's cool that it's something I've been doing and to see someone who's being successful with it. Congrats on the win. What were you running?
I was running orcs. I play orcs in everything, and I've been playing orcs forever. Some of my models are older than some of these guys, so. But yeah, I'm kind of an orc guy.
That's awesome. So what would you have done anything different with your roster looking back, or are you happy with it?
You know, the troll, I always debate whether I want to bring him or just get more skills, but there were times when he played well, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, I thought it was pretty well-rounded, a lot of skills. It was fun.
Cool. If somebody was trying to get into the hobby, would you have a couple sentences of advice for them?
Yes, pick something you love and play it. Now you can switch and do other things, but if you have something you really love, just keep playing it. You'll get really good. That's why I'm good. I've been playing orcs for 30 years. So
that's valid. And anybody you want to give a shout out to?
So anybody who knows Brian too, Brian is one of the best players in the world. I'm his Blood Bowl daddy.
Okay.
Okay. So
it's not the first time his name's been mentioned on the channel. That's for sure.
He's a great player.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice.
This means you need to retire orcs.
What? You guys, thanks so much for coming. Hope you had a great time.
Thank you. Awesome.
As mentioned, the spread between first and third was only 2 points different. This event had some seriously good players, and it was as sweaty as they come, but people were laughing and having a great time the entire time. It was run very well, tied with West Coast Quake in terms of consistency and execution. A lot of us went for Thai food afterward. I ordered a garlic pork, but they were out, so they subbed chicken instead. It was lightly fried, super good. Sauce wasn't greasy, and it soaked into the rice. The waitstaff was not prepared for a crowd of our size, so it took a while to come out, but any possible sins were forgiven once I tasted the food. I headed back out early the next morning to drop off the car and get to the airport, but went to Jim's family restaurant for breakfast. I had a marinated pork with a bunch of veggies, and some veggie soup. Once I got to the airport, I had some Mediterranean food as well. It was pretty much just a rice bowl with everything you could think of, gyro meat, feta olives, tomato, cucumber, etc. And I got some falafels as a side. And I haven't had falafels for like a decade, so that was cool. I got back home late and had to get some chores knocked out for work in the morning, but I was still riding that post-event high ready for the next one. If you only get to pick one tournament to make it to, this one is absolutely a great choice. Brian does an awesome job running it, and the crowd is very strong competitively. I'll be back next year for sure, and we'll see if I can defend the most brutal title. Until next time, folks, travel, eat some good food, and go to a tabletop tournament already. It's also important not to forget to keep on watching. Turnover!